every curb in the city needs to be checked and measure the lawns. I think to a point it's okay, but I think some of it's gone a little too far.
Is it staying at 8 inches? That's my question.
Yes.
Yes.
But it has a lot more than that.
I think it's growing over the curbs too, I think, in there, isn't it?
You did not see this to coordinate on it?
He just gets the yeah. The purpose of this chapter is to beautify and preserve the appearance of the city by requiring property owners and occupants to maintain grass lawns at a uniform height within the boundaries of their property and on abutting street right-of-way in order to prevent unsightly, offensive, or nuisance conditions.
What does it say right now?
I don't have the old one in front of me.
I think it's the old one is just 8 inches.
8 inches.
8 inch lawn is.
Well, what are we changing?
We're adding quite a bit of detail, because we even have definitions of what curb, cut and mow mean, owner, parking, and the whole bit. It's a much longer,
One of the things was to expand.
uniform height is still 8
Keeping
inches.
the grass and the weeds from growing into the gutter, which inhibits water flow and all those kind of things. And we don't have a ton of that situation in the city, but we do have, particularly on First Street, a good amount of that, including, and in fact, our own city properties. It also does the same thing. On occasion, we'll have weeds or grasses growing over the curb and down into the gutter. That's one of the things that
Is this
changes.
gonna take
That would be
away
on the city.
wildflowers and all that stuff on?
If it's inside the curb,
No,
you've
no,
got.
I'm talking about in the parking, the city right away.
I don't know if that addressed that in there or not. I don't think it did. It still talks about residential 8 inches, all residential areas 8 inches, business industrial 6, and agricultural 15.
So if you run a business, you can only have 6 inches down?
That's what's.
Correct.
Yep.
And anybody else can have 8, right?
No, you can be.
Residential.
Have 15.
Residential says 8?
Residential is 8,
Residential.
business is 6, and agricultural is 15. It also does have publication of notice. Annual spring publication of this ordinance is in an official newspaper shall serve as notice to property owners. The city will be authorized to respond to violations without additional written notice being given.
To take out the
So
letter
we have
part.
to make sure that this gets published every spring in the newspapers.
Right.
We can't even keep Doug on top of what we got.
He's not the one that has to get it published. That would
I
come
meant
from
the
the
lawn
city.
mowed.
Well, if we don't have to give out letters, we can just have move in and mow it, and that's kind of what we're after.
Well, by that line, if we publish, we have to publish it every spring, and that is, we do not have to authorize to
That's the
respond
notice.
to violations at that point. That's their notice. You would not have to send a letter otherwise, by the way
Right.
that's
What if
written.
they were in Florida the day that paper come out?
They own property here, they still need to be aware of what's going on in their city. If the property owner fails to comply with this ordinance, the council or its appointee shall cause the property to be mowed. The fee for this service will be set by resolution and will be assessed against the property.
And if you take the part out about having to send a letter, we can just have Chris or Bob go in and mow them
Mhm.
then. And once you do that once or twice, I think that's very good. Thank you for reading that to me.
Abatement by city. If the property owner neglects or fails to abate as directed by this ordinance, the city may perform the required action to abate. The fee for the abatement will be set by the city council. Would you like me to read the rest of this? I missed
No.
I missed all the definitions and exemptions. The council members should have had this, so you should at least know what you're voting on. Severability clause, if there's any section provision part of the ordinance does adjudicated invalid or unconstitutional, such adjudication shall not affect the availability of the ordinance as a whole or any section, provision, or part thereof not judged invalid or unconstitutional. That's standard. this
Not
ordinance,
this long, but I see it's a whole bunch longer.
It's 2 pages now instead of 1.
yeah.
Actually,
This
it goes on to
ordinance shall
3.
be in effect from and after
Not
its
on my
final
copy.
passage, approval, and publication as provided by law. And this is the first reading also, so it'll have to be on next
I
agenda.
personally think with section 5206, Doug's job has been, half the time was trying to find out who even owned the property to send the letter to.
Yep.
So,
I think that's probably why that was put in there.
okay.
Now,
So if you see any yards that are over the inches, then you can automatically call the parks for them to go in and mow it without notifying the homeowner at this point.
Let me clarify, it does say 8 inches in height, correct?
8 inches. Developed residential areas not to exceed 8 inches, undeveloped residential areas not to exceed 8 inches, business and industrial areas not to exceed 6 inches, agricultural areas not to exceed 15 inches. Grass, weeds, and brush which are allowed to grow in excess of the above specified limitation are deemed to be violations of this chapter. Any property within the City of Independence, whether vacated or non-vacated, is required to conform to this specification. But we have to make sure we annually put this in the newspaper. And if we fail to do that, then we're gonna run into the same problem that we just did with the last ordinance by not following our own ordinance. So we need to make sure that gets done.
I would say the change I see is that 52.04 is much more specific about what the owner's requirements are than what we had before. I think we just had the height requirement before, and it's kind of loosey-goosey. This is more specific.
So that particular thing says, every owner shall cut, mow, and maintain all grass, weeds, and brush upon the owner's property and adjacent to the curb line or outer boundary of any street, which includes the parking area abutting the owner's property, to a uniform height as defined in section 5205. Every owner shall cut, mow, and maintain all grass, weeds, and brush adjacent to the curb line, including the parking area abutting the owner's property, in such a manner so as to be in conformity with and at an even height with all other grass, weeds, and brush growing on the remainder of the owner's property. Every owner shall cut, mow, and prevent all grass, weeds, and brush adjacent to the curb line curbing in such a manner so as to keep all grass, weeds, and brush from exceeding the curb line curbing. I think we better make some copies of this because I have a feeling before this comes on the next agenda, there may be some questions.
So 8 inches is gonna be the height, so.
For residential.
Growing in the parking.
8 inches.
Wildflowers are not included. It's grass, weeds, brush.
And remember that on First Street over there.
Yeah.
but,
Doesn't include native grasses.
no, they said,
Obviously.
but native grasses are grass.
They are. But the flowers and stuff, that's not in here.
Yeah, because under definitions, it does not say anything as far as what they're all, this is natural grass. Exemptions, the council reserves the right to declare any particular area exempt from this chapter if it involves conservation or other natural grass, flower, or wildlife areas. Such exemptions to be approved by the council by motion and filed in writing with the clerk.
I saw that woman over there.
But it still
Across.
doesn't specify as far as the mowing part of any wildflowers. It
Four
strictly
flowers.
says grass, weeds.
Well, neither did our previous ordinance, neither did our previous ordinance.
And we ran into
Do
issues
anything.
with that property then too.
Hmm?
We ran into issues with that property then too. People were complaining a lot about all those flowers,
Right.
those native flowers and
So
stuff.
if you
out there.
plant 4 flowers out there, you're legal.
And if they get higher than 8 inches, we can't mow them down.
Flowers can't be higher than 8 inches?
I said if they get higher than 8 inches, we can't mow them down
Oh,
For flowers.
by this ordinance.
I'll throw some fertilizer in there.
So everything's gonna be flowers. Then we're gonna have a discussion of what's a flower, what's a weed, what's a grass. Gonna make your job real easy, Doug.
Well, this is what's funny is we're upset about a 2-page ordinance and already we've expanded it to 5 pages and sometimes it just takes common sense.
Yeah.
we could keep going. It could get up to 10. I mean,
Bob, there's more common sense going on here.
Okay,
I think I think what Doug's gonna like about this too is we can just go in and clean it up and mow, and we don't have to bother with all the.
I like that part of it. I really like that part of it,
Right.
but all the other stipulations, my God almighty, this is a free country. If I want a 7-inch flower, I don't see why we ought to send the SWAT's team out after it. Yeah, it's got
Flowers,
a
flowers
7-inch
are,
flower.
flowers are exempt from that ordinance.
Yeah, I know, but the weeds aren't, the weeds are 8 feet and then you got a 7-inch flower, I mean,
We'll just mow around.
You
the
got
flowers.
8 foot, you got 8-foot weeds.
8-foot
Why should
sunflower.
Bonnie, what do we need to do to move forward? Make a motion or?
are we still in public?
Why don't we add a burning ban
We
to
have to
this one?
close, if the discussion's
Really
over, we need to
complicated.
close the hearing and.
Motion.
And
Second.
public hearing and receive a file oral and written comments. Motion by Hill, second by Dallenbach, did I hear?
Lanius.
Grover? Lanius, sorry.
both of us.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We are out of hearing, and now you're ready to motion to receive, file, consider, and adopt the ordinance for the first time. That's where we're at.
So moved.
Motion by Hill, seconded by,
I
Second.
will. I thought you were
We did that
hesitating.
again.
No, go ahead.
I'll give this one to Austin.
Give it to Austin.
And we're doing roll call for this part. Okay, Dallenbach,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Holland,
Yes.
Lanius,
Yes.
Bell.
Yes.
How about Vaughn?
He was voting no, she or